Blog Talk Radio. Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard. Hi everyone, this is Chatting with Nat. Yes, it's me, Natalie Jean. Today we have the honor of having award-winning singer-songwriter, jazz artist Laura Campisi. An award-winning songwriter and jazz singer based in New York City, Laura has performed with various musical ensembles throughout Europe, the U.S., and Canada, and continues to produce a wide range of music, jazz, folk, electronic, Italian. She writes in English, Italian, and Sicilian, and sings in Italian, English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Sicilian. Oh my God, I thought I was singing a lot of languages. In 2017, Laura released her debut album, Double Mirror, welcomed with high praises by the international press, including the prestigious Downbeat magazine, and included in the best of 2017 by both Cadence magazine and All About Jazz. Let's give her a round of applause for Laura. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hi. Hi, Natalie.
I want to make sure that you felt welcomed because my two little hands are not going to do you justice. So I wanted you to feel like you had a crowd applauding you.
Well, you should see the smile on my face. I am definitely feeling welcome right now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So how have you been during this entire pandemic? It's been crazy, huh?
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, I think nobody really could have imagined something like this in their wildest nightmares. Something like this happening for real, coming out of, the screen of all the movies we've watched and the history books. And, yeah, it's happening to us, right? I think it was a very traumatic experience on a global scale. And that is, it's definitely like amazing in that, it really, I think, caused everybody to really pause, not only in their actions, but also in their minds and being like, where am I with my life? I definitely felt I was really supported by the presence of my husband. And so I really felt blessed by it. We live in a very tiny one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, so we didn't have any room really to become much stir crazy and kind of like pace. We didn't have an outdoor space, like a little backyard, none of that, and I really, really missed that a lot. But other than that, I couldn't have wanted like a better person at my side than my husband. So I know that I was absolutely blessed during this whole, ordeal. And while people, were really lonely, I had my best friend at my side.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, there were plenty of people that are extremely lonely. There were cases. I in the beginning, I read a case where this man in the UK actually ended up killing himself because he just couldn't deal with it. He had to have people around him. So, anybody that was with anybody, I actually was with my mother and my uncle. We were very lucky to have been surrounded by people because I think a lot of people learned what was missing in their lives. I know that during the pandemic, one of the things that really caught my attention is people need physical touch. Even if you're touching somebody's hand or hugging somebody, that's an essential to people's lives. And the whole dynamic. Yeah. So when things really are in the clear, I think people are going to want to run and hug one another and stuff like that. And I get it. But it's been crazy. But one of the things I ask everybody, because I think with having a year of so-called downtime away from the world, kind of, people have had the time to really think about who they are in whatever profession they are in, but especially artists, you know, we start to think, okay, what type of artist do we want to be? You know, how do we want to be seen in the world today? During this time, did you take that time to really think about your artistry and how you want to be perceived?
Well, you know, it's amazing that you are bringing this up because I actually just recently, I mean, like a couple of months ago, maybe like at this point, like 3-4 months ago, finally started getting into something that has been like really interesting for me and calling on me, but it never really quite happened in my life until that point, and that's exploring electronic music. Like I always listened to it, but I was thinking, oh, I'll have, you know, at one point maybe I'll meet somebody that I can create that creative, you know, connection with, and that never happened. And then in February, I decided I was going to put out a song, and I didn't have any, you know, tool to do it myself, so I just, you know, sang a cappella and recorded myself like a video on my phone, and from that, you know, this became a collaboration with my husband, who, you know, plays the keys and electronic music for fun. So this became a collaboration where also my brother came in and helped us with the video aspect of it from Italy. And so I guess in my husband, I found that, you know, sparkle for this other way as well, like, you know, for music. And then I started kind of looking into it. Like I'm learning how to create, you know, the electronic music myself on my computer. So, you know, one step at a time. But this really, like, it has been like a huge accomplishment for me just to like really step into this after many years of, like, you know, wandering. And another thing that really changed for me is the fact that I've always said, you know, like I'm very passionate, like politically, and like the social issues really burn me from the inside. But I always said, you know, like I'm not I'm not really an activist. I'm not a political songwriter, because I have never really felt like I had any right to be one. You know, I kind of felt like I had my ideas, but I wasn't like involved enough to really consider myself, or even allowing myself to write about my political and you know, my philosophical views. And that has changed as well after last year and what has happened, you know, like with the total explosion of the Black Lives Matter movement last summer. So I decided, and going back to this project, you know, that I put out in February, which is a video, right? It's a video of "Strange Fruit," the song that Billie Holiday brought to fame, the song that, you know, that is like a living wound. You know, it's a musical wound when you listen to it. And I chose that song because I felt like I needed to try and do my part in explaining certain concepts to people who might not have understood them. So I'm Italian, right? So I come from a different country, and I didn't grow up here. I only came here about 10 years ago. So what really, you know, talked to me and spoke to me was the fact that I realized that in these 10 years in the United States, I had to learn things about the history and the culture of this country and the mentality and, you know, like the really the path that this country has taken in a way that it wasn't allowed to me when I was, you know, living in Italy, and I was learning about America through the lenses of a foreigner, right? And then I realized maybe some people here don't understand certain concepts, just like I didn't, because they just need somebody to explain them to them, and because they just need, you know, somebody to really ask them to pause 1 second and reflect upon things. So I decided that I was going to use this video to create a bit of a, you know, text that was, you know, was going to be included in the video to explain concepts like Black Lives Matter and white privilege, things that people keep misunderstanding. And I don't think they should, because this misunderstanding is what is really keeping people far from each other and apart. The misunderstanding, not the concept at heart. I think a lot of people can be brought to see the need to really speak about the issue of race in the United States and so many other issues, and I have finally found the courage to be part of the conversation.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. And I know that you are vocal because I've seen some of your I've seen comments.
Yeah, I'm very vocal on social media, right? So this was just a natural next step.
And I love it, and I love you for that, because there are a lot of people that sat back and didn't say anything. Some people don't want their fans to know what they're thinking, blah blah blah. But who cares? We have to be authentic. We have to be real. We have to say what we need to say. We live in this country. I think it's important not to sit back in the dark, but to come out of the light and say, you know what? I'm not going to accept what's going on in this world. The past 6 years, it's disgusting. This has been disgusting. So.
Yeah, and also, really pick your battles, meaning that, my dad always tells me, you can't throw a rock at every barking dog, right? So it's like you can't get into an argument or, even a conversation with everybody all the time, but you can definitely decide that you won't be silent, like you said, that you will speak your truth, and that, that you can make even the smallest difference. It's already a big difference, if we all can accomplish that.
Exactly. You're exactly 100% right. Now, during this pandemic, did you do any live streaming at all?
So I did a couple of interviews. One of them also with a few live songs that I, played accompanying myself on the uke, which I am terrible at. But it was a lot of fun. And then in terms of shows, I haven't really done that. Probably in part because I was maybe too shocked for the majority of the time, during the pandemic. I should also mention I lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic, mid-March. So, it was a lot that really changed, and my balance was pretty much off. So I didn't quite feel I think, in the right mindset to do this and to try and find a way of doing it inside my super tiny apartment, and all that. What I did try to do pretty early on was to put out an album that was ready, and then unfortunately I hit some roadblocks that had pushed the release of the album. Now I hope that I'll be able to put it out in September. And this is a free jazz album. There was a lot of fun in the making because, it all just came about in Boston in 2018, the five of us getting into a studio and just improvising the whole thing. So that was an extremely positive experience for me. And so when I found myself facing the fears and the pain of the pandemic, and I thought, looking at my Buddhist practice, I thought, what can I do now, since I don't seem like I can do much, but I can create value. And so I thought maybe I can put out this album for the whole band. Maybe I can take it upon myself to put it out on the media platforms, streaming platforms, so that at least I'm creating a bit of value. Maybe I'm giving somebody 1 hour of something fun to listen to. And unfortunately, this wasn't as easy as I thought. So one thing I learned about myself is, and I keep learning, over and over, is that I'm a fighter. So I kept fighting for this album to be released, and I am definitely looking forward to the date.
That's awesome. Now, what is your working situation now?
Well, so besides, singing, I've been working as a tour guide, and of course, until the borders are open for people from like Europe and South America to come back, it's a little difficult with tourism. Now I hope that, with the vaccination and all that and the relaxing of all the, restrictions in New York, that at least Americans will be able to like travel to New York as tourists, and so that the field can start again. So I'm definitely going to look into, agencies and try to find myself some more work now. But the agency I used to work with, they work predominantly with Europe. So they are not going to reopen until Biden, really gives the go for tourism to resume from there.
Wow. I didn't know. Well, yeah, I'm going to have to come to New York to give me a tour. Although I used to live in New York.
Yeah.
I used to live in New York, and I went to point. If there's not an area I haven't been in, that would be a surprise. But I'm sure there's a lot to see.
Yeah.
So that's great.
There's always more to see in New York.
Yes. What I love about New York is a great melting pot. There's just so many diverse people, and there's so much to do. I just love it. It's just a beautiful place. How would you?
Yeah, the diversity is definitely one of the things I love the most about New York as well. And when I go back home, to Sicily, I kind of miss it. I miss seeing all the different people, hearing all the different languages. Definitely one of the things I miss the most.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to live there, I loved going to Greenwich Village. I loved going to Chinatown. I just loved everywhere. I just couldn't take, obviously New York is very fast-paced. I lived there for 5.5 years. After a while, it was getting on my nerves. But it's a beautiful place if anybody wants to go and visit. Now, how would you describe your music? I know that you're a jazz artist, but now you're going into the electronic arena, which is going to be fascinating. Fantastic. I can't wait to hear it. But how would you describe your music?
Well, my music is definitely jazz influenced. So that is probably like the best way to describe it. Because I started studying vocals at a jazz school when I was 13. So, that imprinting is like really strong on me. But at the same time, I am very like music curious. So I like to listen to a whole different like bunch of genres. I like singing along with like a lot of stuff. Of course, I like to listen to some music that I don't necessarily want to perform as a genre, like that I don't feel maybe that connection. But there are many, many genres like within rock, electronic music, folk music, again, like songwriting and blues, so many things that really speak to me, even reggae. So in my career, I have really enjoyed juggling songs from different realms and kind of like putting them all together and trying to find that, connection between all of them by the way that I am interpreting them and by the color that the band can give. So that's definitely something that I love to do. And in my songwriting, you can tell that there are different influences. It's not all about jazz.
It's not all, did you hear that? It's not all about the jazz. I like it. I know, but it's also...
Although a lot of people could, disagree, especially here in New York, but I just like to keep my options open.
You know what? It's good to be versatile. It's extremely good because the thing is, if one of your focuses is trying to get your music into sync, licensing, supervision, whatever, TV, film, documentaries, commercials, versatility is a key. Because let me tell you, we're not making money streaming our music. If you're not touring, selling merch, and selling your CDs, how are you making money? You're getting it into sync and licensing. And one of the things that the pandemic afforded me was able to sit down. I mean, I telework, but I had opportunities where I was, doing all these webinars and conferences about, syncing and supervision and getting your music into all these different places. And you can make a lot more money, obviously, doing that. Now, the music industry is hard, and it's a lot of work. But if you take the time and put the effort in, I mean, there's so much you can achieve with it. And the fact that you can sing in so many different languages, it affords your music to get into way more things. Because you can go into get your music into something that's French, Spanish, Portuguese, Sicilian, Italian, whatever. you have that broad, that huge range of places where your music can make a big difference.
You'll definitely have to pass me those notes and let me know where I can find these masters, because like that thinking is definitely something I haven't actively worked towards so far. And I know it, like you said, for many of us at this point, it's probably the only chance at making any decent money with music. I'm not saying good money, just even decent. And so it is definitely worth looking into and even learning how to do it, you know, how to navigate those waters.
So what I will do sometimes this week, I will send you the information of where you can send your music. There's different sites for that. Some of the sites you just upload your music and they'll see if they'll accept you. Obviously, there's Broadjam. There's so many different ones where if you work with a music supervisor, they can try to get your music into film and television and stuff like that. So I'll definitely send that to you.
Why, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What point in your life were you like, oh my gosh, I've got to get into music? Was it a performance? Was it something that you were watching that you were just saying, my God, this is just me?
I think, you know, this has always been like my understanding. I mean, like I didn't know, of course, when I was a kid that I was gonna, you know, try and become a vocalist and that I was gonna work, you know, in music. But I always love to sing, and my family is definitely like a family of like music lovers. My parents used to collect, you know, like traditional Sicilian music, talking to the old people, and then, you know, performing them on stage when they were young, when they were, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend. And so I really grew up in a family where music wasn't a profession, but it was like definitely like a huge part of our life, a huge part of our love. We would like sit outside after, you know, dinner in the summertime and just sing the songs we love and singing them all together. So, you know, I never doubted that like music was part of my life. And then, you know, around middle school, everybody in class was like using me as a living jukebox.
Right.
And so, you know, I was more and more inclined at like performing in front of people. And then it was actually my father who asked me at the end of like my, you know, middle school last year. He just asked me, would you like to study vocals? Because, you know, it was clear that I had a passion and a talent for it. And so that really changed my life, because I started studying at this like jazz school in the afternoon after school. And of course, you know, it made me also a little weird when, you know, in high school, when everybody was like going to their, you know, garages and playing like rock and drinking beer. And I would like go to my jazz school and learn all the, you know, jazz standards from the 40s and the 50s. But it was a lot of fun, and it was love at first note. Like I didn't know what jazz was when I went there at 12 and 13, and I didn't know what jazz was. I only realized, oh, what a wonderful world. I think I heard that song in a movie, you know. Yeah. So I guess that's what jazz is. But then I just realized that jazz gives you the chance to express yourself in a way that can be as unfiltered and as honest as you want to push it. And right. I just loved it.
I love that. So we're going to play your song, The More You Know. Tell me what that is about.
So The More You Know is one of the original tracks in my debut album, Double Mirror, that came out in 2017. And this song literally says, the more you know, the more you want to forget, the more you bleed, the more you're going to learn. So you know how you find sometimes yourself in places where it's like, I know this is supposed to be good for me, but why does it have to hurt so much? Can I just like turn my head and not think about it? But this is how life is, you know, you really need to push through, because through the darkest times, you know, is where we really forge our character. And so, you know, that's more or less what The More You Know is all about.
All right. Hold on. We're going to have a word from our sponsor, and then we'll play the song.
Hi, this is Nikki Chris, and I host a podcast called Mixin' It. Mixin' It focuses on women in the music, entertainment, and the performing arts. Our goal is to provide an avenue for industry veterans and up-and-coming artists, musicians, engineers, and producers to showcase their talent. Listen to Mixin' It on Monday Music Madness at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Sim Radio Network.
I love that. You know, jazz is actually my favorite genre, my all-time favorite genre. Yeah, that's what I started out with. My first album was like a pop jazz fusion. Then I did a jazz album. But jazz is not easy. Let me tell you, especially in the jazz community. If you even try to do something a little bit out of the box, they want to kill you. They're like, no, that's not jazz. It has to be this. It has to be that.
You know, it's kind of funny you mentioned this because one of the reasons why I was so happy to come to New York and leave Italy is because the jazz scene over there is filled with like incredibly talented musicians, but I didn't feel that freedom, like you said, like to think outside the box, and I will have people, say, oh, you should not do like, the jazz standards and then your own music and then Sicilian traditional music. Like you should really focus somewhere. And I was like, but I don't want to. Like this is all me. And then when I came to New York, I actually realized that this fact of like being so curious and so versatile is one of the things that made me different than other people who might have a similar background in jazz and whatnot. So of course each one of us is different and unique. But sometimes you're just going to trust your gut. And so I definitely found in New York, at least, a much more open-minded jazz community than what I was used to in Italy. And you can tell because, like, you ask these musicians what you play, and they'll say the bass or the guitar. They won't say, like, I'm a jazz guitarist necessarily. Like, I'm sure that there are people who do, but like, I know so many incredibly like talented instrumentalists that really just love music and use their instrument in whatever situation is available to them because music is music,
That's right. Now, in listening to that song, it almost sounds a little like oh my God, why can't I say bossa nova?
This is definitely like, Latin.
Yeah, which I love. But bossa is very hard. It's not an easy genre to do based on what I hear and the technicalities that go along with it. But that's fantastic. If you can sound that like that, that's great. Believe me.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Now, do you play any instruments?
So I don't really like play any instrument. Like, I can't really accompany myself like to a degree of like, proficiency that I would do it on stage. At least not yet. But I definitely use instruments to inspire my music. So like sometimes for an arrangement or to write, I would definitely like use the piano. I've written some stuff on the guitar. I've even written a song on the bass. And I really can't play any of these. Proficiently, but I think it's just amazing. I think what is my mind tends to roam a little bit too much. So when I remember back in Italy when I was still living there and I was trying to learn piano, I would do my exercises and then like maybe I would hit the wrong note, but that would give me like an interesting chord or something, and then I would just go with it and write a song. So until I can really sit down and focus on myself and get the like self-discipline that I am definitely lacking, I don't know that I can really learn to play an instrument properly, but it is definitely something that I desire for my life. So I will try to work harder at it.
Me too.
Sometimes with the ukulele it's a little easier because the nature of the instrument itself like is not as demanding physically, but still like you just need to learn how to be comfortable with an instrument. And for a vocalist, that is difficult, at least for me, because I was always comfortable with my instrument. It's inside of me, Right. So is that extra, the extension of yourself, as they call it, that becomes the instrument that is not quite there yet for me. How about you?
Let me tell you something. I tried to take a guitar class years ago, and I keep telling this to people, I felt like a contortionist. My body I love the guitar, but my body was just like, no, I know. So then 5 years ago, I bought a smart keyboard, which has been in the box for 5 years. And because I just haven't had the time to open it and try to learn. I have all the CDs, and you can hook your iPad to it and learn. I have all that stuff. I've been procrastinating. I have to open it. This is the year that I'm going to do it before the year is over. And because I think it's great if you, obviously our vocals are instruments, but I also think it's great when you can at least play something. So, and I'd like to learn how to read music and all that stuff because I don't. When I record a song, I'll write the lyrics and I can hum the melody in one of my voice recorder, and then I'll go to my music producer who's phenomenal, fantastic, and he just listens to it and it's like, okay, and then I'll just tell him what instruments I want with it. But I think, I definitely, it's a goal of mine.
Yeah, and I totally hear you about the procrastination. I mean, like, it's one of the things that I, dislike the most about, like, one of my flaws that I just hate the most. Not because there is nothing wrong with it per se, but because it's just like, it's preventing me to accomplish my goals and it's dragging me down. But I think, we all have our battles, right? There are people who are really disciplined and on point, and I'm sure they have their battles as well. So, hopefully, with this conversation and all, the input that we can get from around us will help both of us to accomplish this dream. I think, I think it's the dream for both of us, and it definitely makes for a more well-rounded, musician. In my case, there is something also like extra to it, and it's the fact that I want to get to a point where I can perform alone on stage, even if I never become a virtuoso, and I know I won't because that's not my interest at all. But even if I don't become a great instrumentalist, I want to have the basic capabilities and tools to perform on stage on my own and do my own thing. Because, I feel like with jazz in particular, you really end up like, becoming your own, arranger and a band leader, because you need to convey what you want to do to your musicians. And in my case, at least, the majority of the things that I have sang were the fruit of my own creation. But then you have to make it happen with other people, right? And sometimes other people can get in the way. So though playing together is a beautiful thing, and I have literally, again, I started studying jazz when I was 13, and I think in 20 years I have sang on a musical bass maybe once, except for karaoke, of course. My whole musical life has been about performing with people on stage. That's all I knew, and that's all I have known. But at this point, I'm kind of really ready to develop the tools I need to be my, to become my own band whenever I want to be it, and whenever I need to be one.
Fantastic. Now we're going to play the song "Strange Fruit." Here we go.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, flat on the leaves, light at the root, let the body swinging. Southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar tree, pastoral scene of the gallant South, bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, smell of magnolia, so sweet and fragrant. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather and the wind to sough. for the sun to rise, for the trees to drown. Here is a strange and bitter
I have to say that was it brought a tear into my eyes. It was a very powerful piece, and I'll tell you why. What I like about you is you stepped outside of the box in the sense. What I love about it is the fact that there's like thunder, sirens in it. It makes it very unique and very different than what we hear now. It's extremely authentic. It's real. Your vocalization, you can tell that it's just you. You're just singing. You're singing from your soul. And I think a lot of times, mainstream artists is great, what we hear on the radio, blah, 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 yada, yada. But, people are craving the real. And that was just such an honest interpretation of that song. I applaud you for that.
I really appreciate you saying all this. It means a lot to me. I really poured my heart into this, and it's one of those things, like just working on this, on this song and this video really gave me purpose. And I honestly, I can move by it too still, even though it's me singing, because it's just such a raw emotion that it's in me all the time, whether I'm thinking about this or not, whether I'm trying to make music with this feeling or not. This feeling is always with me, and I just feel, it's a great thing that when we hear that calling and we can answer it and really say, like, you know what, I might not come out of this necessarily, with praises or and people might misunderstand my intentions, or people might think so many people out there are like, I want to do music, I don't want to do politics, and I respect that. But sometimes when you do, put your politics and your ideals into music, that can create, an issue for somebody. And I just feel like I'm answering a calling, and that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to.
Amen to that. And thank God you're following your calling, because that was amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What is the one thing you wish you had known before you got into the music industry?
Oh, yes, that is an easy answer for me. There is no friends in business. That is one of the lessons I learned in the United States that I would have definitely had use for way before I came here. And it's not easy to stop making the same mistake, but I definitely realized that for the longest time I have kind of mixed up, friendship and professionalism, which is fine. I think it happens to a lot of people. Music is one of those things that can really bring you close. But then at the end of the day, if you're not on that business mindset, these relationships can become a double-edged sword and really, really stab you in the heart, which has happened to me multiple times. So at the end of the day, sorry for what?
I hear you. You're preaching.
Yeah, I mean, I know my story is not like the only story of like, that kind of hurt feeling between friends and colleagues. But in my case, it really brought me to understand that there is a deeper issue, that is not, anybody's fault. It's my own fear and insecurity. So if I can trust in myself more, I will probably be able to separate the things better. And it's also part of the culture and the ways the society is kind of shaped in Italy in general and in Sicily in particular. Because, it's all about the relationship. And over here, I feel like, the American culture is more about like, there is like, playtime and work time, right? More like into this, separation of the things. And I feel like the Italian culture, because of the way we are as people mostly, and it's good and it's bad, but it's also, it must be good. Like, we tend to be warm and just to like, get into things, but then you don't have the rationality that is really so important in any business. To really say, you know what, like there has to be boundaries, and I can't trust you blindly just because I feel you're my brother, because you're not, and even if you are, like I need to trust in myself first, second, and third, and then I can start trusting everybody else, and I'm still working on learning that lesson, but I definitely feel like being in the United States taught me a lot about that.
No, I hear you. It's taught me a lot too, and I was born here. What is a quote that you like to live by, or a message that you like to live by?
So I think at this point in my life, my favorite quote, like to really live by, is a quote by Buddhist monk Nichiren Daishonin, who said, "It is the heart that really matters."
Amen. Amen. Lord have mercy. Amen.
Yeah, if we can look into our heart at every given situation, even when it hurts, even when we're mad, and if we can find compassion for ourselves and others, we can definitely accomplish great things.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, Laura,
I'm loving this.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Jesus. You've given us the final answer here. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being on Chatting with Nat. I've learned so much. I knew a lot about you already, but my God, that song "Strange Fruit" is amazing. I'm going to share it because it's beautiful. I have to put it on one of my playlists on Spotify. I got to do something.
Well, actually, one of the things that are going to happen this summer is that I'm going to release the song on the digital platforms, so that I can submit the video for Best Video at the Grammys, just because I want it to circulate, And they told me that in order for the video to be submitted for the Best Video category, you need to have the song, the actual audio, out, at least as a single. So that's what I'm going to do. So you will be able to add it to your Spotify playlist once it's out.
Because do that soon, because the submission periods are coming out after July 23rd, I believe. That's the first session, and then the second session is sometime in August. Yeah. So definitely get that done.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, if you want, you can share the video. It's on YouTube and on my Facebook page. So
I will definitely do that. I will share it on Instagram as well, at least a minute of it, because, Instagram, that's all they allow us to do. But, yeah, thanks again for being on Chatting with Nat. And then let's definitely schedule a time for you to be on the IG Live. I think that'll be a lot of fun. It's truly been an honor to have you on my podcast.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun, and I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, have a great day. Have a great week. Yes, that was award-winning singer-songwriter, jazz artist Laura Campisi. She's phenomenal. She's amazing. You've got to listen to her music. She's all over the place. Her website is www.lauracampisi.com. Or you can just Google her. She's on Instagram at Lala Jazz, Lalla Jazz. Yes, that's how it's spelled. You'll find amazing things about her, and her voice is just it's exquisite. This was Natalie Jean on Chatting with Nat. Until next time.
Thank you, Natalie.
Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard.